All right, so here we are for part two of fixing our DS Lite. I've got some replacement parts. We have a replacement top screen and bottom screen with the digitizer on it. We're going to replace them, try and give this a good cleaning and scrape off anything that we couldn't before, and then we should be all set to go. So, first things first, actually, we're going to do the top screen first. Since this is kind of need to be one piece before the whole thing can go together. So we're gonna start with this. These four rubber plugs come off and the screws are underneath them. So we're gonna pop the screen out. So the screen out, some of the stuff can kind of slip through the axle with some ease, and then the microphone can do the same. And now the screen has to be rolled up, kind of scaringly. Gets rolled up and then pushed through the axle. Like so. Now that the screen is off, the speakers, as you can probably see, are soldered to the display, which is a little annoying. So we need to do two things. We need to, one, remove the solder, and two, take off the display here. So before we take off that, let's take out our replacement screen. This was just bought from eBay. Nothing very special. We're gonna pull off the white bezel here that comes off with the adhesive, nice and easy. And then we're just gonna drape that down over top. As soon as I clean the smudge off that was there. And now we just drape this on top, lining up the edges. Truthfully, an easy way to do this might actually be to just take the front bezel and the adhesive, drop it in, and then put the screen in so that it all fits. Press it down so the adhesive sticks. And yeah, and we have a hopefully perfectly aligned screen. So now we're just gonna pop that back out because we need this to be easier for us. Now with the new screen and the top housing off to the side, we need our soldering iron to resolder the speaker. So I'm gonna grab that real quick. All right, we'll just do this one wire at a time. Black on the top, on the left. And we'll bring in the old screen. Same thing with the top. And now we can trash the old screen, sell it if somebody needs one just to test. But we should be all set with that now. And we can go ahead and reassemble. So, hard parts first. First, we need to reinstall this little ring, as it mostly will just fall out. Depending on how old your DS Lite is, there might be a small ring on the axle. I don't know what to call this thing. The long end goes into the hinge, with the short end will be going into the main board. So now that's in place. Now we have to do what makes DS repair so annoying. Pretty much what we did, take it out, you got to roll it up, but now we have to be really careful with it because this is our replacement screen, and if the replacement screen breaks, then, you know, tough luck, and you gotta get a new one. So we're going to carefully roll it up, position it just to be a little easier. And kind of like that. It's okay if the axle pushes out when you're doing this. The important part is kind of getting this whole thing through without tearing it. So just gonna grab it a little bit. I'm pushing the screen with it, so there's no tension. I'm just kind of working my way, working it through the slot until it comes loose. Like that. All right. Now that that's done, we can go ahead and slip the microphone wire through, just to get that in there. And now we can reinsert everything else. So we'll reinstall our screen, like so. You might have to flex the housing around it a little bit for it to sit flush. That's nothing bad. Reinstall this speaker. And then lastly, we can reinstall Wi-Fi antenna. Foam pad on the upside. And this one also then slips through. And then this one also slips through the hinge axle thing. Like so. Just make sure there's enough length to set it down. And then we should be good to go. I might have my ordering backwards. You might need to do all of this, then the screen last. To be completely honest, I didn't think it mattered, so I didn't remember it. But we'll see. If we have fitting issues, then we will need to do it in the opposite direction. So now that's all together, we can go ahead and slip on our panel again, remembering this time to take in mind the teeth that are on here. Starting at the top and kind of getting it snipped into place. Follow the teeth. And you importantly don't want to forget these little rubber things because they probably will fall out. So before you screw it together, make sure they go back in. And now our top screen, our top half is together again. And then the next step will be the bottom stuff. So we've got our board. This one will be fairly simple, thankfully. So to start, we will take, kind of the same way we did the situator, we'll take the bottom frame here. We'll grab our new screen. And something I didn't mention at the start of this, I did test this bottom screen before doing all of this because I didn't want to plug it in just to find out it didn't work. But we're all set on it. It also doesn't have any adhesive, but I think that'll be okay. So what we need to do on this is fairly similar. We're going to take our bottom bezel, make sure it's cleaned on the inside. I'm going to set it in its proper orientation because you can kind of see it's got some placement on it. And then we will sit the bottom screen down in place and let it pretty much connect to the bezel, making any kind of fitting adjustments as needed like we did on the top. Turns out I had the bezel on upside down, causing a lot of fitment issues. With that cleaned off, we are going to reinstall the buttons, then we'll put the board on, then put the two halves together, and then I think we can call it done. Take our top half. We need to slip everything through the hinge so that we can put on the hinge cover so that the halves will be together. Because once the motherboard goes in place, that these screw holes get covered up. So we're going to start with this. Slip together, slip through our antenna and microphone wires. Kind of like so. And then, oh my God, tight space. And now the screen wire can be worked through as well. So it'll get slipped through the little, this little slit on the bottom half. Sorry if it's a little hard to see on camera. I had to restart. I actually had this kind of upside down. So I worked the ribbon cable through, and then we'll slip the signal wires through. And now the whole thing can kind of just slip together. Make sure all the cables are out of the way, and then it should just go together with everything clipping together and staying together a lot. All right, now we can take our hinge. This just goes over and down, and then it should just rest in place, letting us just leave it and then screwing it together with the two long screws in the system. Yeah, with that, the hinge should work. Yep. Like normal, and then we can close it up and get the rest of the system back together. So we'll start with putting the screen in place, like so. We'll install our buttons. We will start with the touchscreen digitizer. And once that's in, we will flip the board over, taking the screen with it. Which I guess you don't like have to put the screen into this, but you know, that's what I did. Then we'll flip, then we will clip in the actual screen ribbon cable. Making sure this time everything is inserted fully and securely before clipping down the connector's latch. Now that's in place. Now we can secure the top screen button, the top screen ribbon, before we flip that back up, we can do some cable routing. So the white wire gets routed through the upper part of the case, where it has these little, pressure points that will hold it in place. Now we can flip it back down. Making sure everything's lined up. We're gonna just the black wire a little bit. Just the cable management as needed before we proceed with anything. We're gonna put our one motherboard screw in just to keep the board in place. So. And now we can work on finishing the rest of this up. The digitizer ribbon cable had come out. I guess I didn't put in fully, so we're just going to reattach that. Like so. The white ribbon connector can be reattached. And I guess before we proceed, we need to do the black cable, which we'll do it proper this time. Has to go through the cartridge slot, and we'll see how quickly we can route this cable through. All right, and there we go. I found that kind of very gently pulling up on the cart slot helped a little bit. Not so much that you're obviously going to yank it off the board, but just enough that it's not weighing down on it. Then we install the Wi-Fi chip that also has the BIOS on it, and then we can reconnect the antenna wire for it. Just like so. Now we can work on the trigger buttons. Just like before, we'll do the metal rod in its little housing. Take one of the springs, kind of hold it in place, and then slip everything through the rod. And then we can bend the spring back into place. Do it again for the other side. And now we can slip on the back housing and we can close it up. Now that's in. Screw everything together. Turn it on. Use our stylus. Touchscreen works. Speakers work. Just clicking the wrong button. Shut it down, and then just to make sure it works, we'll grab my copy of Hard Gold, pop it in. Cool. I think it might need a quick calibration, just to be on the safe side. All right. So a few things that I noticed kind of just off the bat. Touchscreen, not entirely in place. Not a huge problem. I just take it apart and push it in a little bit more. The D-pad feels weird. I'm not sure if I'm just not used to it or, yeah, it feels fine. There's no movement in the case or anything. Yeah, I mean, I'd say the buttons feel loose, just they wobble. I mean, it's a different console than the 3DS I'm used to using, but you know, who knows? That could be how it is. The right trigger. The right trigger feels mushy, almost like it's not in place, but all the buttons work. So no real concerns or anything. Speakers work, and it turns on and off. And the screens work now. So I'm happy with how it turned out. I'll probably fix this stuff on the touch screen, and maybe the buttons are wobbly because something's loose. I'll do that. I'll do that off camera. It's not worth putting on screen at the moment. But I'm glad it's working. It looks great. It could use a cleaning on the outside. Let's grab some rubbing alcohol and towel and wipe it all down. But yeah, I mean, it's working. It's the white color that I've got. We managed to fix it up, even if we needed to wait a few days to order some replacement parts. We have a functioning DS Lite, and I'm really happy with it. I actually intend to use this one. Try and clean up the shoulder buttons a bit more in my own spare time, just to make them look a little more white. But yeah, I'm happy with it. Thank you so much for watching and kind of sticking through what turned out to be a two-parter. Let me know if you've got any questions, comments, suggestions. I'm always open for suggestions. Leave a like if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, which is cool. And I will see you guys in the next one.